What's good, YouTube? It's your boy D Riv. Hey, today we got top 10 wrestlers who still in not. Why did I read that how I talk? Top 10 wrestlers still not in the WWE Hall of Fame. Alright, I gotta read it a little slow because I put a little my slang in it. So it sounded a little different. But look, first time trying to make sure y'all hit the thumbs up, make sure y'all subscribe because we're almost at 5K. Hopefully we get 10K before the end of the year. For everybody that's watching and subscribes, we'll get there. But look, appreciate y'all, man. We've been going crazy. Let's keep going crazy. And let's see who's not in the Hall of Fame that should be. Because I personally think the Hall of Fame is starting to become a joke because they literally put anybody in it. It'd be different if it was just a wrestling Hall of Fame where it's like wrestlers from different promotions and stuff come into the Hall of Fame and WWE hosts it. Maybe something like that. You know, you get some old TNA wrestlers or whatever, or some of the older guys from NXT, not NXT, oh my gosh, AEW. Then you get some of these older guys from Japan, or just a bunch of people from all over the place, and they come into the WWE's Hall of Fame as a wrestling Hall of Fame. WWE's Hall of Fame is just, I don't know, they got Snoop Dogg in it and all these other people that I feel like don't even belong in it. So it's kind of a joke to me. But let's see who they think should be in the Hall of Fame.
Some of the greatest superstars in wrestling
By the way, this is my first time watching one of his videos, so I don't know what to expect, and I hope he doesn't copyright it. So if he does copyright it and y'all don't get to see it, or if parts get cut out, it's because he copyrighted it, but hopefully not.
History have been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Since its inception in 1993, there have been dozens of inductees, but there are some names that come up that make me scratch my head in amazement that they aren't already in there. For some of the legends on our list today, there are reasons that they aren't included, but for some of the others, it's a total mystery. So let's take a look at 10 performers who really should be inducted and try to get to the bottom of why they haven't been. Before we get into today's video, let me know if you enjoy this kind of comedy. Wasn't already in the Hall of Fame while I was writing this list. Luger made a name for himself in the NWA and WCW, where he became World Heavyweight Champion and had memorable feuds with the likes of Sting and Ric Flair. He was also briefly a member of the Four Horsemen before he signed with Vince McMahon in 1992. When he debuted in the Federation, he was briefly a heel known as the Narcissist before he was transformed into the All-American Lex Luger. This gimmick was produced specifically to replace Hulk Hogan, who left the company in mid-1993. A huge amount of weight was placed on Luger's shoulders as he was expected to fill Hogan's sizable shoes. Despite the WWF's massive efforts to get him over with the fans, it was just never going to happen. Luger lacked the natural charisma and likability of a top star, and it was pretty unfair to force him into this role. After a few months, McMahon gave up on Luger and he eventually went back to WCW. With legends like Sting and Goldberg already in the Hall of Fame, it's clear that WWE allows wrestlers who made their name elsewhere to enter the Hall of Fame, so why not Luger? It's often reported that he ruined any future relationship with WWE when he went back to WCW. His contract had run out and nobody in the Federation had realised, allowing him to shockingly appear on the first episode of Nitro. And that obviously incensed Vince McMahon. And then there's the fact that Miss Elizabeth passed away on his watch. Liz was living with Luger when she died of a drug and alcohol overdose, and he is often blamed for her spiralling into addiction. So these reasons may be why he's not yet in the Hall of Fame. Chyna changed the face of women's wrestling forever.
Okay, Chyna is somebody I think would be in the Hall of Fame, but clearly she's not. I thought she would be because we got wrestlers even today, like Rhea Ripley. She said she looked up to Chyna as a big, strong woman, and Rhea is a big, strong woman. So
Broke
that's surprising.
expectations as the female bodyguard to DX, and then as one of the only female superstars in WWE history to wrestle both men and women. She became the first and only female Intercontinental Champion and entered the King of the Ring tournament and the Royal Rumble match. Chyna became a role model to millions of girls and women around the world and helped pave the way for the women's revolution that came over a decade later. But sadly, Chyna left the WWF under difficult circumstances, and she struggled with personal problems after her career in the Federation came to an end. Famously, she was in a relationship with Triple H before he left her for Stephanie McMahon, and for quite some time he was considered to be one of the reasons why she never went into the Hall of Fame. Her career in adult entertainment certainly doesn't help matters either. Chyna was partially honoured when D-Generation X.
That's why she's not in the Hall of Fame right there. That's the reason. Because people are gonna go look. People gonna go look her up or whatever, and they gonna see that stuff. So that's the reason that she's probably not in the Hall of Fame.
Were inducted in 2019, and they did take the time to single her out for praise. But now, more than 7 years after her death, it feels like the right time for Chyna to be posthumously entered into the Hall of Fame on her own merit. It's an absolute crime that Big Sid isn't in the Hall of Fame, considering the impact he had during the 1990s. Sure, he wasn't the greatest wrestler or the best promo guy, but he was one of the most charismatic big men in wrestling history, and he was super over with the fans in 1996. In the WWF, he was...
Yeah, I don't really know much about Psycho Sid, so I can't really say much about him. But me personally, just for me not really knowing much about him, I would say I don't know.
Was a two-time world champion, but he arguably had as much success in WCW, where he was a two-time world champion and a one-time United States champion, and he was even in the Four Horsemen at one point. But while he did achieve some success and was loved by the people, he was apparently extremely unreliable. He missed important events due to oversleeping and allegedly feigned injuries so he could go and play softball. These issues meant that Sid had a love-hate relationship with Vince McMahon. McMahon loved Sid and gave him multiple opportunities, but in the end, Sid kept on letting him down. And while many people have called him one of the nicest guys in the business, there was that time he almost stabbed Arn Anderson to death. But there are many sides to every man, and there are people who have done far worse already in the Hall of Fame. When Sable joined the Federation in 1996 alongside Mark Mero, it was clear who the real star of the couple was. The fans could not get enough of the beautiful Sable, and in many ways her sexiness was perfect for the Attitude Era of the WWF. She even learned how to wrestle and had some decent matches for the Women's Championship with feuds against the likes of Jacqueline and Luna Vachon. Eventually, she fell out with the company, suing them for alleged sexual harassment and unsafe working conditions, and they settled out of court. As always with Vince McMahon, he was willing to put the past behind them, and she was rehired in 2003, where she had a storyline with McMahon himself.
And that's the reason she's not in the Hall of Fame. What you just said.
She left the company again in 2004, apparently on good terms, and it was around this time that she started dating Brock Lesnar. The two got married in 2006. So considering Sunny is in the Hall of Fame, why isn't Sable? There are rumours that there has been a falling out between her and WWE in the interim, or it could be at Lesnar's request. He didn't want them both to be working for the company when they got married, having seen how toxic that situation could be for various couples in the past. So it could just be Lesnar sticking to that rule almost 20 years later. Maybe he doesn't want his wife. You'd expect
Is I gotta see if he's still married to her. I gotta see if he's still married to her right now. Brock Lesnar, because oh, he still is married to her. Wow, that's good. Regal definitely should be in the Hall of Fame because he works for them again. He left for AEW, then he came back, and and the last I heard was he was working behind the scenes with WWE right now. So Regal not being in the Hall of Fame doesn't make sense to me at all because I think Regal should be in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't a crazy champion or nothing, but Regal has been a big impact to a lot of the superstars.
William Regal to be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. He certainly seems to check all of the boxes. Regal learned how to wrestle in the bars of rough English towns like Blackpool and on British wrestling TV during the 1980s before he travelled to America to make a name for himself. He played the role of dirty heel to perfection in WCW, where he tag teamed with the future Triple H as part of the Blue Bloods and later alongside Dave Taylor. After breaking his ankle and leg, Regal descended into a painkiller addiction that almost ruined his life. He'd recently signed with the Federation, but they fired him after discovering his substance abuse issues. Eventually, Regal got his life back on track. He was rehired by the WWF and he had a hugely memorable run as the commissioner thanks to his brilliant comic timing. Regal became one of the company's most reliable and trusted wrestlers, where he frequently wrestled in the mid-card and worked with future main eventers. This trust, along with his close friendship with Triple H, got him the job of head trainer at the WWE Performance Center after his in-ring career was finished. All of this should surely secure Regal's place in the...
Regal's probably gonna be in the Hall of Fame this year. I think Regal should be in the Hall of Fame. He's definitely, out of everybody they've shown so far, he should be the person that's in the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. Bam Bigelow is another one of those names that you just expect to already be in the Hall of Fame. Bam seems to get mentioned as one of the possible inductees every single year, and then he gets ignored. It's unbelievable, really, considering that he was one of the 90s most memorable wrestlers, easily one of the greatest big men wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. Bigelow headlined WrestleMania 11 and carried NFL star Lawrence Taylor to a decent match, and he was a massive star in WCW, ECW and Japan. Sadly, Bigelow passed away in 2007 of an accidental overdose. He was just 45 years of age.
Dang.
It's difficult to see exactly why Bigelow hasn't been inducted. Surely now would be the time to posthumously enter him into the Hall of Fame. To say that Miss Elizabeth was adored by 80s wrestling fans is an understatement.
That is crazy. I thought Bam Bigelow was already in.
Liz and Randy Savage were the original
so we got two
power
people that
couple
should be
in pro wrestling, both on and off screen. Even when Savage was playing the heel on TV, Elizabeth was just loved. The fans were mesmerised by their rocky relationship, which reached its peak at SummerSlam 1991 with their on-screen wedding. In reality, the couple had been married for years, and largely thanks to Randy, their relationship was even more intense in real life than it was on TV. Eventually, their relationship would sadly break down, and they went their separate ways. Liz went from one troubled relationship to another as she hooked up with Lex Luger. They moved in together and their lives descended into substance abuse. Elizabeth passed away in 2003 of acute toxicity. So why isn't she in the Hall of Fame? Perhaps it's the way she met her end that WWE want to distance themselves from.
Probably.
Or it could simply be the case that her family don't want her to be inducted. Brian Pillman was one of the most controversial wrestlers of all time. He wasn't just a great wrestler, but also an incredible promo guy, and he had a sharp mind for the business. His short time in the WWF saw him involved in shocking
There's no mag in
storylines
there.
like the
There's no mag in there. What are you doing with that? At least put a empty mag in it to make it look like it's something. There's not even a mag in there.
angle that saw him pull a gun on Steve Austin. Pillman was so convincing in his role as the loose cannon that you genuinely questioned his sanity when he appeared on TV. But Pillman also had a behind-the-scenes reputation of going into business for himself, so to speak. He sometimes deviated from the script, especially when he was in WCW, and he managed to work his way out of his WCW contract by lying to Eric Bischoff just so he could join the WWF. Pillman had an ongoing substance abuse issue, and he died at the age of 35 of a heart condition. Perhaps it's all of these reasons that add up to why he isn't in the Hall of Fame, from his personal demons to the controversial moments in his career. In a way, Pillman sums up the part of the Attitude Era that WWE would like us all to forget. When you consider the way he tragically passed away,
Bro, don't they have an award named after Owen Hart? Why is he not in the Hall of Fame already? It just doesn't feel right. Like, they got all this stuff named after him. Ain't it like a Owen Hart Foundation or something? There's something named after him. I remember it. They say his name all the time on TV. But he's not in the Hall of Fame still.
it's a travesty that Owen isn't in the Hall of Fame. But when you look at the situation a little bit closer, it's clear why he isn't. Owen Hart was truly loved by both wrestling fans and his peers in the locker room. To the other wrestlers, he was the more laid back of the Hart brothers and a fun-loving prankster too. Nobody ever had a bad word to say about Owen Hart. In May 1999, Owen was supposed to face The Godfather in a match for the Intercontinental Championship. His entrance was supposed to involve him rappelling down from the rafters, but then there was a terrible accident. Owen ended up falling more than 78 feet from the ceiling, killing him. In court, Owen's widow Martha sued the WWF, with them settling to the tune of $18 million. However, for Martha, she could never forgive them for how they handled the situation. She said that the WWF had cut corners in planning the stunt and that they failed to take any of the blame for Owen's death. And because of this, Martha has absolutely vetoed any possibility of Owen ever entering the Hall of Fame in the future. For nearly 40 years, Vince McMahon was the ruler of WWE and the most powerful man.
Oh, Vince gotta go in the Hall of Fame. It like nothing is happening without that guy right there. None of this is happening without this guy. Like, everybody can hate Vince all they want, all right? At the end of the day, it's his Hall of Fame. He has to be in it. He has to be in it. He was a big part of everything. He was the visionary, as Seth Rollins says. He was that person that came up with all of this. Obviously, he didn't do everything by himself. But he's the mastermind behind a lot of superstars. He's a mastermind behind a lot of matches and events. He's the billionaire. He has to go in it. I mean, scandal, no scandal, I don't care. He has to go in it. He has to go in it, bro. I've seen at least probably 4 people on here that should be in there.
Man in the wrestling industry. He turned wrestlers into superstars and millionaires. It was long said that Vince McMahon should only go in the Hall of Fame after his passing.
No.
He shockingly stepped down from his role as WWE Chairman and CEO in 2022. Then he came back again to see through a deal to sell the company, which he did for a massive $12.1 billion.
And we thought the company would have never got sold. I still think They shouldn't have sold it. I think he should have kept it within the family. Like, I understand they got offered a giant deal, but I wouldn't have sold it, bro. I wouldn't have sold it. I wouldn't have sold it. I would have kept it within the family.
WWE is now owned by Ari Emanuel, who also owns the UFC, and if recent reports are to be believed, McMahon has now lost all of his power in the company.
He's walking with a cane now?
Surely now would be the time for Vince to enter the Hall of Fame, rather than waiting for him to pass away.
No, he has to go in the Hall of Fame like this year. He has to go in this year before it's too late. He has to, bro. Before it's too late. He's walking with a cane, bro. He has to go in. I'm sorry, bro. I don't care how much y'all hate him. He has to go in.
He's the man responsible for turning most of us into wrestling fans. He's the man responsible for coming up with some of the most memorable characters and stories in wrestling history. Vince McMahon was the godfather of modern wrestling, so think of all the stories he must have stored up from his years of running the business. Just think how great his Hall of Fame induction speech would be.
Yes. He has to. He has to, bro. I don't care how much y'all hate him. Is there anything else? That's it. The rest of it's just the outro. Whatever. Look. This man has to go in. I'm sorry. I don't care. He has to go in. Right? But look, if y'all got any other videos y'all want me to react to in particular, let me know down below in the comments. And like I always say, man, if y'all got something y'all want me to do, let me know. But look, like this video, subscribe if you're new. It's your boy, The Riv, man. I'm out.